Here to speak with me this morning, author and addiction counselor Scott Spackey. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is kind of fascinating because we talk about you got a very successful practice as a certified addiction counselor, and you also train other people to become addiction counselors.
I do.
You're an author. You've written 3 books. Am I right?
Yes.
And yet, a lot of people think, okay, Ivy League education. He grew up in a good family. He's got all this stuff. He's got it together. But you actually came to this by way of actual experience.
Yes, firsthand experience. I was on my own at 16, living on the streets. I was deeply embroiled in IV, meth, and drug use by the time I was 17, 18, and I lived that way until I was 28.
Wow.
And so no formal college education or degrees. I got legally certified to become a counselor, and I created a private practice. So most of what I teach and how I counsel is through first actual experience. And my clients really respond to that because they know that I know where I'm coming from, that it's not just theory, it's actual practical usage stuff.
And it's fascinating. And you especially outline a lot of your experiences in a book that you wrote called A Stone's Throw, Memoir of a Dope Fiend. Now, a lot of this information, of course, in your story is in the book, but what was as they say, the moment of clarity? What made you decide to go, okay, I got to change it up?
It's a great question, and that is kind of the climax ending of the book. All of it builds up, and yes, there is definitely a moment of clarity, and it's hard to explain in a brief talk, but yes, the entire last chapter really is a cataclysmic event of psychological, mystical, spiritual proportions that are, in actuality, I'm sure for a lot of people, hard to believe when they read it, but it's actually all authentic. I didn't exaggerate any of it. I just told it as it is, but it was a very powerful set of experiences that kind of transcended my own life, what I was doing at the time. So it wasn't that I just had some awareness, like, oh no, this is bad. I had that all along. I knew what I was doing was wrong and dirty and horrible and toxic the entire time I was doing it. But yes, that revelation was something that was deeply philosophical, spiritual, profound, and very, very intense, close to death, etc.
That's fascinating. And do you find that, I mean, is it a sphere of different things that make people come to you, or is it mostly people have that, oh my gosh, I'm about to go over the edge type thing? Or is it a little bit of mixture?
You know, it's definitely a mixture. Some people will reach out and not even know really what they're contacting me about. I've met a lot of people that have issues with drugs, and I do a lot of other counseling and mentoring as well. But a lot of people reach out to me, and sometimes I'll get a call and say, you know, I really don't know what I'm calling about. I just figure I got some things to work through. And I said, well, come in, we'll just sit down and we'll talk. And pretty soon, within a half an hour or so, something emerges that really is the central focus, and we both can see it, and we can put our finger on it and say, that's what we need. That's what's making you feel unfulfilled.
Well, I want to talk also your book, Project Addiction. Tell me a little bit about that.
As the subtext says in the title, it is the complete guide to using, abusing, and recovering from drugs and behaviors. Using, abusing, and recovering. So I go into graphic detail about what it's actually like to use these things. Firsthand experience. Okay, so I think what people seem to really like about this is, as brutal as it can be, it is the absolute actual truth. I'm not dressing any of this up. So somebody who's never done LSD, cocaine, or heroin, when they read this, they get shocked because they're actually vicariously doing these things. So they can see what their loved ones and the people they're concerned about and trying to protect, what they're actually experiencing. What is actually alluring and drawing them into using these things is not just because we were traumatized, beaten, some kind of defect that we have. It's also because the bottom line is these things feel great. And I tell you in explicit detail exactly how they feel. And it is something that you can kind of empathetically experience for yourself.
Now, off the air, we talked about this. You said you received a little teeny bit of blowback from this because you're so brutally honest, as it were. Now, is it possibly because maybe some people, especially when they're thinking about their children or their loved ones, you think they may be in denial about not wanting to understand that the type of stuff that the people are going through, that their family members or the loved ones or whoever
sure.
are going through?
In actuality, the private people, all respond amazingly well to this text. The blowback is the controversial aspect from the recovery industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if you don't mind me being a little editorial here, This is an industry that gets 7%, 8% success, and that is easily researchable online, anywhere you go. 8%, a multi-billion-dollar industry. So the blowback is that they feel somewhat threatened by someone like me who's speaking the truth and offering alternative ways to treat and deal with this that are very successful and very productive. I go against the grain, and it's not for the sake of going against the grain. I go against the grain simply because I know what actually works and what does and what doesn't, because I lived it. I mean, I did what we would call white knuckling it. When I quit, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't have any resources at all. I had a little one room apartment, and I holed up and I white knuckled and I went through it for 3 solid months, and it was brutal. And so I teach people all the options they have, whether it's recovery, whether it's the resources where they can go into an inpatient thing, or doing it on their own, or working with family, working with a private counselor. There's a lot of options, And so the controversy a little bit seems to be, the recovery industry doesn't really, they look at someone like me as something of a threat.
Okay. So let's talk about this. If people, first of all, if they want to contact you, let's say they feel, like you said, it might not even be something that you realize you have a huge problem with, but maybe, you recognize you're waking up, you're not really feeling, maybe you are, tipping it back too much or doing something like that. You're not sure. And a lot of times what I found is you're involved in a habit where after you're done with it, you don't know why you did it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you're at that point, they want to contact you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yes, and let me respond to the first part of what you had just said, because again, the title of the book, it's not just using, abusing, recovering from drugs and behaviors. I've treated shopping, stealing, every kind of behavior imaginable works on the same basic foundational principle. And so this book addresses the behaviors too, workaholics, shopaholics, all those kinds of things. As far as contact, I would recommend going to the actual book's websites. All my information is there, the author page, I'm there. And of course, my private practice is still thriving and I'm still providing. I would never be able to turn my back on the people working one-on-one and personally and intimately with them. So the websites for all the books, and also my counseling website is life-mind.com.
Life-mind.com.
Yeah, that's my counseling. And again, the websites for the books are projectaddiction.net, projectaddictioncounselor.net, and then astones-throw.net.
Perfect. Outstanding. Scott Spackey, author, addiction counselor, and survivor, which is really awesome. Thanks for stopping by and talking to me about this. I really appreciate what you're doing for the community, and thank you so much. And good luck and continued success.
Thank you.